You know, I get it. And I knew what it would be after I did it. How my last video would come across as if I was highly insecure and unsure of myself. I think there's a little bit of all of us that have a little bit of that, regardless if we say so or not. I am good at my relationship and what I do and what I bring to the table. And I do feel all that stuff that I said I didn't. But what I said when I said that wasn't about relationships, it was about family and people coming up in the world into adulthood. I just got the two mixed up. I feel better now in my life than I ever have, to the fullest extent, about myself, about my life. Still not sure of where I'm going in the future or where my journey is going to lead me. But do any of us, even if we say we do we really? Because there's always that one thing we didn't know or didn't know about ourselves. That's why I'm always saying we're always learning about ourselves, learning something new every single day when we wake up in the morning. You know, never the same as we were the year before, the year before that. Growing, shedding our skin in a non-creepy way, evolving into something greater than we were last year, and so on. I am in a good place in my life right now. Thank the heavens above. I have three amazing people in my life. One being my daughter, one being my husband, the other being classified. But, and it's not a female. Just put that out there. I have my people that I am so grateful for and appreciative towards, and love and care about and respect and appreciate to the fullest extent. And all my followers, all my subscribers, all the people who tune in to Rebel K or Rebel K's rants. You know, getting frustration off your mind, it helps. Maybe not a great deal, but just, you know that phrase, like if you go to an edge of a cliff and you just scream as loud as you can. Oh, I wouldn't do that because my teeth would but, you know, it's good I can make you guys laugh. But, there's things like that you can do to just release frustration. For me, it's the things that I have put out there. My gaming channel being my very first channel I've ever started, Reb K Gamer, because I didn't realize I didn't fit the whole rebel in there. But, there will be conversation coming up about my youngest. That's just a really hard one to even think about, alone discuss. It's a scary subject and situation. And I worry about her every single day. But the family's tried reaching out. They've tried talking to her and saying, hey, look, you gotta change. You gotta stop doing, you know. I'm not even when I do discuss the situation, I'm still not gonna put details out there because she's healing in her own ways. And she's already got the blunt of it from the ripping her out, like verbally, from her family and all their discretions with her. You know, I'm not trying to make her feel some sort of way. So I'm not gonna put details out there for respect for my daughter. But just basically to tell how I got to where I am now. And keep saying I have 2 children. And I have shown or reposted videos of her or her pictures, but I don't really say a lot. Because that is, it's hard to talk about. But I will. Well, for starters, we were financially just, oh my god, not well. My oldest was 5. And of course, remember what I said about trauma survivors have a hard time showing love and affection because 9 times out of 10, they really got it. But I tried with every fiber of my being to be the best mother I could possibly be. Especially with everything that I've seen with parenthood, to say it the least. And no child should ever have to encounter any of those things. I'm not talking about just me, I'm talking in general. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody has a different story. We've all judged her, but we're not judging her. We're judging her, but we're not judging her in a bullying type of way. We're judging her in a way like her whole family. What are you doing? You know. I am grateful that my husband's family is very supportive when it comes to the children. Who cares about the adult discretion of who likes who and who don't like who? That doesn't matter. Because when it comes to the children, that's what matters. That's what matters at the end of the day. And, I don't even feel some sort of way about her. I don't know, I guess it's always been in me to. I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't hold grudges. But in my mind, I'm just like, oh, you're just like them. Because some people talk to me like some people used to talk to me, so. And not to say that. If you can decipher, you can decipher. If not, I'm not, it's not about that. I'm just, all I know is trauma and pain and people talking down at me or to me or, whatever. So, I've just gotten really good at hiding it. Like my husband, I won't say which, was on the phone with his sister texting. They were arguing. I guess she was drinking, and I'll leave that at that because it's not my business. And I don't I rarely get into someone's business. If it has to do with their safety, then I'm gonna be a basic concern, but that's different. But, we were watching a movie. He had his phone linked to my TV in our room, and I saw everything she said about me. And it broke me to have it, like, right in your face like that. And your first thought is, like, you don't even know me. You never got to try to get to know me. Yeah, you met my sister at her worst times. Well, I wouldn't say that. She was in a somewhat okay place at that time when she came to my house with my nieces, my nephew, and my mom. Mm. You know, we're always territorial of our mom. Somebody says something about her mom and our sister. Like, no. You don't have to respect them, but if you respect me, you'll be cordial. For me, for Frank, you know. But, so basically, for context, it was unexpected. Okay, both of my kids were condom and birth control babies. How? I can't explain that part, but. And I was a depot from like 18. And yes, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Some of you are gonna be like, oh, and no, I know about that, and I think I'm okay. But it happened, she was breech. They had to kind of slap her on the butt. I don't think she was crying at first because the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck. And, Tammy was there. And I thought she was just moral support. I didn't know that Frank and her had a conversation behind my back about Tammy adopting her because we couldn't financially do it, and he didn't want the state to come in and take her from us, because we couldn't pay to provide. So I'm going along, She says, oh, she was like 3 months. No, she was 6 months old. Trust me, honey. That child came out of me. Yes, I have skips. Yes, I kind of messed up on her birthday because I said it was the wrong something. But you know something? I know her birthday. Her birthday is January 12th, 2003. Okay? Her original was January 26th. But she was like 2 weeks early. I remember Tracy was at the house. And, I felt like I had to keep peeing. And I kept changing my underwear. And she's like, honey, your water broke. And Frank's like, I'll put a bag on my seat. He had a custom car. But, it was 6 months. And yes, at the time, my 5-year-old daughter was trying to. Like, she took a screwdriver in her hand and cuffed it behind her forearm because, and then she tried pulling her out of the bassinet and off the bed. And yes, of course, I got on her and I didn't beat her, but, I got on her. But that girl sat up, straight up one day in her playpen and just looked dead ass at me, and I don't know what it was. I just looked over and it scared the shit out of me. I jumped back and she says, I will get you. And Dad. And we were good parents. This child had 26 Christmas presents underneath her tree, okay? We were good parents. So there was, I don't know, at 5 years old, was it, I know maybe something was there, other than her. And no, I don't ever want to believe that my oldest daughter, is borderline schizophrenic. But, you know, transparency. And, she was 6 months. But Frank had sat me down one day on the floor and we sat Indian style and we were talking and he told me, and I was like, you made this decision behind my back. And he's like, I didn't know what else to do. And Tammy has had a vasectomy and has all boys. And she's always wanted them all. And my heart almost stopped because I was adopted. And I swore I'd never do that to none of my kids. I wouldn't put them through that. And he said, would you rather her stay in the family or she go to HRS and be in the state? And you can't see her, you can't, you know. And that car ride over there with her in that car seat, I felt like a big part of me just died inside. And when I took the car seat out of the back and I had the car seat on my lap and I'm looking at her and I take her out and I hold her to my chest and I don't ever, I'm like, I can't let her go. You know, at first I was like, okay, we'll try it with Mindy because she's 5, she knows I'm her mom. But every mother, it sounds so fucking terrible, but every mother who is a mother, it's her first child. I guess it's a parental instinct. It's not a favoritism thing. No, doesn't mean they love them more than the other. It's just, you know. But I was like, no, you know, I had the thought, well, maybe she can grow up calling her mommy and Tammy can have that experience of being a mom to a girl. You know, that, you know, even know that I was like dying inside. But before that, I had taken her to her foot doctor. I think we had made 2 visits, like before I knew about this. And this is one of the reasons. And the second appointment, you know, sometimes I had to find rides because Frank was working at this time and you know, it's hard to get transportation. Nobody wants to give rides. And if you don't have gas money, you know, everybody's got something going on. And I don't mean that in a bad way. And I told him, it's like, can we schedule for next week? Maybe like a Friday because he gets off early. You know, we're not working. I wasn't sure what the situation. I'm not remembering the situation, but talking about how I'm a bad mom and stuff. And I said, excuse me. I told him off. I said, you ain't gonna stand here and call me no damn bad mama. I said, I do all I can to keep my house afloat and to raise my babies. I said, I don't need somebody that don't know me like you judging me. Basically, but I was pretty nasty and ghetto about it. You know, for teenage years, I was, no pun intended, no nothing. I was raised in the, like, I guess they call it the ghetto, the complexes. I don't know why they call it that, but okay. Oh, I do know why people say they call it that, but that's just kind of fucked up. Anyways, that had happened, talking about calling HRS on me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wow, you're a really good doctor, huh? You know, you really care about people, you know. And he's like, "Oh, okay, but trying to say," I said, "I am not, and I will never beat my child or anything like that." You know, her feet were turned when she came out. I assume that maybe it's because she was breech, and her fingers were kind of are double jointed like mine. So, but anyways, we couldn't afford the medical bills, and because that stuff had to come out of pocket, and stuff like that, transportation, and her husband worked at Pepsi, making good money. She was an RN, making good money, so I knew she'd be safe and taken care of. And that was that. But let me tell you, I cried myself to sleep for 6 months. I felt like the worst person in the world, as I swore to myself at a young age I would never put any of my kids through that. And I love my husband to the end of the world and back. But a little piece in me has a grudge against that because you didn't have the balls to let me in. You went behind my back. He has no idea of what that internally did to me. Everybody in my life has been running secrets around me. He's the one person I never thought would ever do that to me. That fucking hurt. That fucking hurt. All that stuff I talked about in the beginning. That's like a feeling of all of that hitting me at one time. That's how bad that hurt. But I'm gonna end this episode here. Thank you. I don't know what to say at this point.